Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for around about the next 45 minutes. This morning, we're looking at CH50 accounts, and specifically, we're looking at importing records. Now, we will be covering the importing of transactions in tomorrow morning session. So if you're wanting to develop your knowledge just that bit further, when you receive your follow-up email after today's session, do get yourself registered for tomorrow morning session as well. And you'll have that bigger picture of how you can use import to make just things that are just that bit quicker, a bit simpler as well. Right, let's get stuck into a bit of housekeeping though before we get started, just in case anyone's new to the sessions. There's a few names on the list there that I don't recognise. So first of all, you don't need a microphone for these sessions. If you do have one and you've enabled it as you joined, then you will find it's muted automatically. You can't unmute yourself. So any questions that you have for us today, you'll need to pop them into the questions panel. Just click your little speech bubble icon, which is on your taskbar down the right. It'll expand. You'll have access to that box in the bottom corner. Any comments or questions? So if you see something or hear something you're not sure of, or maybe you see something in the background, or maybe I skip past it, or you've got a question on it, let me know. Pop it in there. Remember to click send. Otherwise, I'll not see that. If anyone wants a copy of today's handout, which is basically a copy of the slides, then they are available to download during the session. As normal though, they aren't the detailed steps for importing. If you want that, have a look in our help center. That's where you'll find all that great information. So the detailed step-by-step guides to guide you through that process. Right, as normal, we are recording the session. A link to the recording will be included on the follow-up email, which you will receive round about an hour after we finish. So watch out for that one. So if you need a bit of a recap, maybe you're not ready to import yet, but obviously keep that link. So when you are ready to import or you need that bit of a recap, you might want to share it with a colleague. So that will be included on that follow-up email. There will also be links on that follow-up email so you can register for our upcoming webinars. They are all free to attend. Currently, our timetable runs up to the end of June. And that includes our next digital badge, which is VAT Proficiency. So we actually ran the VAT Proficiency last year, proved very popular. So we're going to be running that again. So if you are interested in attending that, we're running that during June, but also throughout July as well. We'll be running similar sessions, so opportunities to gain that badge. There will also be a link to our recordings. So if you've missed any sessions or maybe you did attend, you need a bit of a recap, then do use that. It's well over 100 topics available now. So some great resources on there to help you get the most from your software. Right, so without further ado, let's get started. So this is what I'm going to be covering in this morning's session. So brief introduction to importing. We'll look at preparing your data, what's involved in that. We'll run through some demonstrations. I've got loads of sort of files that I've prepared. So it's almost like ingraining that process so you can see the ins and outs of it, what to watch out for, and hopefully at the end of it, you'll be thinking, well, actually, I think I could do that. So you'll be feeling a little bit more confident. We're going to look at troubleshooting as well. So when you do import, it's quite common for it not to import and there be an error. So I'm going to show you what to look out for, the kind of things that catch people out, and some very common ones that can be easily be avoided. So we'll touch on those as well. And then just at the end, I'll explain more about the additional support. And if there are any outstanding questions, I'll pick those up as well. Now, before we get into the webinar, I'm going to get you involved a little bit. I'm going to quickly pop a poll on your screen. So if you don't mind, choose an answer, click submit. So simple question, have you imported data before? So simple yes or no. So have you used that option in CH50 accounts? So if you don't mind, let me know. And then I'll just wait till a decent percentage of you do vote for that. And then just gives me a bit of an idea of sort of everyone's experience. Brilliant. Okay, so actually, unbelievably, I've got a 50-50 split. I'll just share the results with you there. So 50% of you have imported before and 50% haven't. So those that haven't, sometimes importing and seeing a demonstration of importing can be a bit of an eye-opener for you. You realize probably that you're receiving information from one area and actually you could have been importing it as opposed to sitting there keying it in manually. And hopefully going forward, you'll spot those opportunities as well. So maybe just that light bulb moment, you think, oh, I could use import for this, and save yourself quite a bit of time. For those that have imported before, you'll be aware of that already. Hopefully you've already had those light bulb moments and you've saved some time already. But maybe you're just coming along, you've not done it in a while, or maybe you just want that bit of reassurance that your understanding of it is correct. If you have imported before and you've got any queries, things that catch you out or things you're not sure of, do let me know. Keep them coming via the questions panel. Anyway, thanks for getting involved for that. We'll just hide those results there. We'll get going with the webinar. So just as a bit of an introduction to importing, and specifically we're looking at importing records today. So why would you import? Well, the idea of importing is if you have large amounts of data to enter, if it comes from somewhere, so let's say it's coming from other software, or maybe you build that up on the likes of a spreadsheet. It might be adjustments from your accounts into part of the year end, that type of thing. So if you have large amounts of data to enter, or maybe you want to make changes to multiple records, you can use import to save time. So it brings all of the data into your software in one go, rather than you manually entering that. For records, things like customers, which I'm going to be concentrating on today, setting up records, keying in names and addresses, it's notoriously time consuming, particularly if you type at the same speed as me, which is not very quick at all. Speed's probably the bad word to use there. So sitting keying them in or importing that information, if it's already been provided and it's already in the likes of an Excel spreadsheet, then it can be a big time saver. Now, uses for importing, there's two uses. One is to add new data and the other is to update existing data. Now, for adding new data, you can do that to records, so adding in new customers, suppliers, products, that type of thing. And you can also add new transactions, whether that's maybe some expenses like bank payments. You might have a list of standing orders that you key in every month. So anything like that, any sort of repetitive tasks where you're keying in information, can it be automated to a certain extent? So that's for adding new data. But you can also use imports, and this is often overlooked, to update existing data. Now, you can only do that for records. You can't use the import option to update transactions. So you can edit your transactions in your software, you can delete them, you can add new transactions in manually, but you can't essentially update an existing transaction via import. But you can for records. And that's often overlooked. So if you want to change everyone's credit limits or terms or anything of that nature, maybe you've got a big mishmash of addresses. So sometimes they post codes in field number 4 of the address when it could be in number 5, and you want that big consistency. That's when you can use it to update your existing records. So benefits, we've touched on these already, saves you time. It is flexible as well. You'll see that as we're working through the wizard today. It's really flexible in that very little prep needs to be done. So as long as you've got the right information, and it's on the likes of an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, then you should be able to import it. And obviously, one of the big benefits, it avoids mistakes. If someone gave me a list of names and addresses, guaranteed by the time I finish keying them in, I would need to go back and correct some typos here and there. So whatever information is in the import file, that's what gets imported. So you haven't got that human element in the middle typing it in. And a bit like me with my poor typing, there'll be typos galore, no doubt. Now I have included a link there on how to import data. So it links you off to our help center if you want that step-by-step guide that I was mentioning. So next, what can you import? Well, there's lots you can import. Now, the options that you have available will depend on the level of your software. Now, when I'm talking about the level of the software, some people refer to it as the variant of your software. There are essentially three of those. There is Sage 50 Accounts Essentials, Sage 50 Accounts Standard, and Sage 50 Accounts Professional. So depending on the level you're on, will determine what options you have available. So for instance, the professional level of the software is the only level that has the projects option. It's the only one that has the fixed assets ledger. So you're only going to be presented with those if you are on the professional level of the software. But again, there are essentially two types of import. There's records and there are transactions. Now, records, customers, supplier records, nominal accounts, products, projects, and also fixed assets. Now, I'm going to concentrate on customers today, just so you can see that process, see what it looks like. But equally, what we're doing today, you could import into other areas. And once you understand the principle of it and sort of what's needed and how the import wizard works, then the rest of it's straightforward. Importing transactions, so transactions onto your audit trail, such as batch invoices, credits, bank payments, bank receipts, journals. Same on your supplier side as well. You can import those as audit trail transactions. So basically any transaction that would normally appear on your transactions list, that's what you would term an audit trail transaction. You've got project only transactions. Again, that would be one that's only available on the professional level. You've got the ability to import a stock take. Now, stock take, you're actually importing and saying, right, these are the stock levels. So you're not actually importing stock transactions that way. It'll calculate if a transaction is required when you do a stock take. It'll do that automatically. But there is an option to import stock transactions as well. So transactions we're covering tomorrow morning at 11. So today we're going to concentrate on records. Going to use customers as the example as well. Right, okay. Let's move on. Now, historically, and some of you may have been using import for a long time, and I remember when I was on the support team back in the day, I used to get loads of queries on importing, and it was quite a cumbersome task. There was a lot of preparation involved, making sure that in your Excel spreadsheet you had the right data, but also that it was in the right order. But nowadays you have the data import wizard, and it includes a field mapping option, which makes it quite simple. Now, when it comes to importing, you can either use one of the Sage import templates, we'll have a look at that in just a moment, or you can use your own file. It doesn't have to be an import template. So it does mean that could be very little sort of preparation that you need to do as long as your file contains the right information. Now, import templates are provided for you. They're available by going into the data import wizard. Or if you know where to look, you can actually just browse through my computer to find that. But the easiest way to get at them, if I quickly share my screen, is within the software, just go to File, down to Import. Now, one thing to be aware of with data import is that other users need to be logged out of that company while you import. It's what you would term a program exclusive area, meaning that everyone else needs to be logged out completely. So they can't just be sat in customers and be sat doing nothing. They've got to actually be logged out for you to able to access the import option. If they were logged into the software, you'll just get that normal message saying you can't access this because such and such is logged in. So coming back to access the templates, it's File and then Import. It launches the data import wizard. We're going to be working through this a number of times in the session today. But to access the import templates, in the second paragraph, you've got this little link. And if I just click that, it'll bring up the relevant folder that contains the templates for me. So we've got this customer record, what we term full template. And if we obviously you've got them provided for the other areas as well. But if I just double click it, just so you can see that, I'll even put it on the right screen so you can see that. That would probably help. And this is what an import template looks like. Excuse me. So it's provided as essentially an Excel workbook. Now on here we've got some headings. So this is the information that potentially you could import into a customer record. Now you've got the color coding. And as far as a customer record is concerned, you've only got one of the sort of the bluey aquary colors at the top as far as headings are concerned. It's for the account reference. It indicates it's a required field. So if I was filling in this spreadsheet and thinking, or starting to build it up, or maybe I'm copying and pasting information into this, then I've got to have something in the account reference, which is the customer account reference. So that's the only required field. And if I hover over it as well, you'll get the little comment box appear, and it'll tell you in the comment box that it's a required. You must complete this field. It's got a description, format, restrictions, and an example. So one of the restrictions for an account reference you may or may not be aware of is that for a customer's account reference, you can have a maximum of 8 characters. So a minimum of 1, but maximum of 8. So it'd just be a case of making sure you've got, for each record that you want to import, you've got to have something in the account reference. And then the ones in yellow are just the optional fields. So you have the choice. So things like the account name. You've got the address fields here at the top here. You've got a contact name, telephone number, fax. You've got the first of the three, or the first 3 analysis fields, department, that registration number. And if you just keep scrolling across, you'll see there's, I'll stop on some of them as well. You'll see there's loads of information potentially that you could include. So it just depends what information you want to bring in, but you've got to have something in the account reference. So basically, each customer would be a row of the spreadsheet. I've got some examples you're going to see in the demonstration today. Now, one thing to be aware of with the templates is that they are flagged as read-only. So you'll see if I go to the File menu, if I was just to try and click Save, it'll say we can't save that. Depending on your version of Windows and your version of Excel as well, you might get a slightly different worded message. But basically, you need to do a Save As. So it just protects the original templates just in case you make any other changes. So just give it a different file name, make sure it's saved somewhere where you can get at it, and then that's it done. It's going to close out of that for the time being. So just as a reminder how to get to that list of templates, it was just File and then down to Import, and then it's in that second paragraph. Just click the Here link and it will open up the folder automatically for you. Right, let's head back to the slides just for a moment. If I can find the right button. There we go. So moving on, we're going to start looking at that data import wizard. So where we've just been File and then Import. So again, remembering everyone else needs to be logged out if you're on a multi-user version. And also, it will warn you about this in step 1 as well. There's a prompt there to take a backup. Now, I can't stress that one enough. Do not be that person that contacts our support team and say, I've gone through the import, I've selected the wrong file, I need to undo that. Actually, I don't have that backup. Don't be that person. Take that backup. If something goes wrong or it imports it, but maybe you've imported the wrong file. You've selected a list of suppliers rather than a list of customers, and you've imported all those into your customer list. You don't want to have to try and correct that manually. So take that backup. I'm going to do it once, and then I'll keep skipping past that point. But always take your backup in step one. I can't stress that one enough. So what we'll do is we'll run through some examples, some demonstrations, just so you can see what that looks like. Right, let's get back to my desktop then. Now this company that I'm working in today, if we just pop into transactions, you'll see it's completely blank. We'll pop into customers, again, completely blank. There's nothing in here, it's just a shell of a company, this one. But you can import whenever you want and as often as you want as well. You're not restricted. You can include as many records as you want as well. So if you want to import 2,000 records in one go, you can do that. Take a little bit longer just to run through that wizard, but imagine sitting there keying in 2,000 names and addresses. Now, import isn't also just for when you first start using the software. Some big time savings at that point, because a bit like myself at this point, it'll be a shell of a company that you'll have. There'll be no data there. So good opportunity to bring in existing records from your other software, or maybe you've got them recorded on the likes of a spreadsheet. So that's a good opportunity at that point to save yourself some time in the setup process. But anyway, this is a shell of a company. So just minimize that for the time being. I'm going to use this folder, which has got all my files in here that we're going to use for today's import. Now the first one is my own file, and I've put some headings in there. So I just open that so you can see what it looks like first of all. Let's zoom in a bit so you can see it. Typical sort of file. So we got the account references. Remember, that's a required field. I haven't got colored headings because this is just my own file. I've got the name of the customer, so the business name, and I've got some address information. Got some contact names, and I've got some telephone numbers. And I want to import this information into my Sage. So ignoring that top line, we've got 8 records. So even that for me, if I was given that information and say, can you put that in Sage? It'd probably take me a while to do that. Sitting there keying in names and addresses. I'll be sitting with my ruler and then highlighting things off the printout and things like that. But can be quite time consuming. I've got to show you what it looks like when you import. The first thing, when you're importing, make sure you close the import file itself, otherwise it'll give you an error when you try to go through that import. I'll try and demonstrate that one a little bit later for you. So close out of it. We're going to go back to Sage. We'll go to File, Import, and it launches the import wizard. So remember, there's your link to the import templates. You've got the warning in step 1, saying the data import procedure is not reversible. The only way you can reverse is really by restoring, which is why it prompts you to take a backup at this stage. So click your backup, make sure you include your data files, give it a file name, choose a location, whatever you want to say. I'll just put mine on my desktop. It means that if I do make a mistake, I could restore back to this point in time. So I'll just OK that. I'm going to say yes to check my data because there's nothing in mine, so it's really, really quick. Just quickly let that run through. It tells me no problems, exactly what I'd expect with next to nothing being entered other than my company settings. If you did have any errors, warnings, or comments, just click on the tab down the side. It would then give you more information. You can expand it and find out exactly what that issue is. It's also the help option, so you can find out what it means and how you go about correcting that. So it tells me the backup has been successful. We just OK that, and I'm ready to move on to step 2. Right, step 2 of the data import wizard. What is it I want to import? Well, in my case, it's customer records. So select it, click next. Step 3 is your data source. So where is and what is the file that you are importing? Now mine's an Excel file. You can choose CSV as well, so comma separated value file. So mine's an Excel file. You click browse for that. So on my desktop, I've got a folder called import records. These are the ones I'm going to be using for the demo. So select it, click open, pops in the path for you. Does it contain headings? Those in my case, that top row, it's got the headings. So leave that ticked, click next, and it'll take me on to step 4. Now step 4 is the bit that gives you the step that gives you that flexibility, meaning that you don't necessarily need to prep everything in detail. So basically it's saying you can import all of this type of information. And basically what you need to do is specify in the import fields column, which column in your file holds that information. So for the account reference, if I click on the drop down, which of my columns includes the account reference for my customers that I'm trying to import? So in my case, it's the ACREF column. I want to import the account name. So in my case, just called the name. That's the column that contains that. For street 1, street 2, town, county, postcode, in my case, they're called address or add 1, add 2, add 3, etc. So it's just a case of me specifying those. Let's just quickly select them. If you know what they're called as well, when you go to select it, so if I know it begins with A, if I just press A, it'll start cycling through anything any of the column headings in this case that begins with A in my file. So sometimes that can be a little bit quicker if you've got that great big list. Contact name. I think mine was just called contact. So I just press C, it jumps down to the first one beginning with C. And then for telephone, it's just called tel. The rest of it, so things like fax numbers, analysis fields, these are just optional. If they're required, it'll have a little star in that required column. Now, when you're importing transactions, there'll be a few of those against a transaction. So there's a few more required fields when you're importing transactions. But that's all I want to import from that file that we selected. So I've got everything mapped. I can click next. It gives me a summary. And then if I'm ready, I click import. It does 2 passes. Hopefully you saw that one. Obviously, if you're importing lots of records, it'll take a lot longer, or not necessarily a lot longer, but a bit longer to run through that. Pass 1, just in case anyone's interested, if you've run it before, you think, oh, why pass 1, pass 2? Pass 1, it reads the information and validates that it's in the right format. If it gets past pass 1, it then moves on to pass 2. Pass 2, it's when it's writing that information into your accounts. So it'll do pass 1, you'll get that progress bar, and then if it gets that far, it'll go on to pass 2 to write the information in to actually complete the import. Now, mine's absolutely fine. It says these are the records that are being imported. I just click close. And if we go back to customers, I've now got those records entered. If I go into one of them, you can see it's got the address, etc. in there. So nice and quick. Right, let's pick up on the next one. So this time I'm going to import some customer records where in this instance, it is just data only. So I don't have headings this time round. Now, if that's the case, you need to know what column each thing is in. So when it's going to ask me to do that field mapping and it says, right, what's the name of the customer? I need to know that that's in column B. And the address is in C, D, E, F, and G. Now, you might not necessarily have them in that order. You might have the customer account reference in column N for M or N, for instance. It's up to you. All you're doing when you get to the mapping and saying, right, that information that Sage needs is in that column. So I'm going to close it. In mine, I've made it quite easy. I've put them in the right order. So we'll go back to Sage, back to File, Import. Step 1, take you back up. Don't be that person. Click Next when you've done that. I want to import customer records again. Click Next. Browse for the file. So it's this 1B file this time. This time it doesn't contain headings. Now, if I leave that ticked to say it does contain headings and I click Next, when it gets to the field mappings and I click on the drop down, you can see it's read that top row. And it's actually reading the customer information from that first account in my file. So if I go back and I take the tick out to say it doesn't contain headings, but we click Next. And then we want to start mapping. So because there aren't any headings this time, headings make it much easier. This time it's asking me, right, which column letter is that? So I know my account references are in column A. The account name in my case is in B. And as I say, I've put it in the right order just to make it that a little bit easier for myself for the demo. And we'll do, I think we had a telephone number as well. So that's it mapped. Click Next. Ready to go. So we'll click Import. Does pass 1, pass 2, and then that's it done. So again, we've just got little chunks of data here, but again, that could be thousands of records at the same time that you're bringing in one go. So back to customers, and you can see the next, wherever it was from, the rest of the records. Right, going back to the import files, so file C in this instance, so I double click that one, and this time I've used an import template. So you can see the column headings at the top. And it's got the right wording on those headings as well, and it's in the right order as well for that matter. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to close out of that. Back to Sage, go to File, Import. Just yes to close the other windows down. Take you back up. Click Next. Choose what it is you want to import, so customer records in my case. Then I'm going to click Browse. Browse for my file, so it was C this time, this one. It does contain headings, so I'll switch that option back on. If I click Next, now this time the mapping is done for me. And the reason for that is in the template, it has exactly the same wording as what Sage requires. Now, for whatever reason, if I changed that or it didn't recognize it, it would just be a case of saying, right, well, the account name is in this particular heading. I just need to change that back to account reference. So it would just be a case of you selecting it from the drop down. So I'm going to click Next, click Import. It'll run through that, pass 1, pass 2, imports the records, click Close. And again, if I go back to customers, we've got the additional ones in. Now you'll see this time, it's actually imported things like the credit limit that was included in my import file. So I've got that extra little bit of information included this time. So as you've seen, nice and quick to import potentially. Imagine I'd started typing these at the beginning of the session. guaranteed, even what, we're 35 minutes into the webinar now, guaranteed I probably wouldn't be this far through yet. Tells me I've got 29 records, so it's nowhere near I'm going to be able to create a record in a minute. Not typing in the names and addresses and making sure they're correct. But that could have been hundreds, if not thousands, of records. Now this time, we go into this one, so file D in my example. What we've got this time is we've got a number of worksheets at the bottom. So in this case, sheet 1 has the information on there. Sheet 2 has some other random information, and I've got a marketing data sort of worksheet in there as well. I haven't got anything on there yet. But it's this information here that I want to import. So what would that look like? Go back to Sage, go File, Import, take you back up, choose what it is you want to import, browse for your file, so it's file D this time. And I'm going to get an extra option, and it's this option here. So because it's detected that my workbook has extra sheets in it, so there's extra tabs, it's asking me, right, well, which of those contains the information that you want to import? So just a case of me selecting it and then following through the wizard, just as we've done so far. So in this case, because it's my own file, my own headings, I then just need to go through that mapping process. I'm just going to cancel out for the time being. Right, now E, or file E. This time, we've got what we got this time, five files, or 5 customer records that I want to import. Now, if you're provided with this information, let's say it comes from the same source each time, it's coming from other software. So it might be that you've got software that collects customer names and addresses from a website, for instance. And it's provided you in the same format each and every time. So we know the first column is going to contain the account reference, the name, the address 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So if it's in that position, what we can do is we can save the mapping. So if I go to File and Import, and we'll go to Next, choose Customer Records, browse for that file. It does contain headings, and I'll do the mapping. So I'll just quickly fill this in. Oh, it is address 2 I want. Now you'll notice on there as well that postcode's already been mapped for me. It's recognized the heading, the title. It's in the right format, it's spelled the same. So that one's already done. I'm not going to do the contact name or telephone number this time. But let's say that information that I've imported there, it's always in that format in the file that we get given. So what I can do is I can save that map. And I'll call it, what shall I call it today? Let's use the date, so 2105. So C2105. Call it whatever you want. And I'll save that. Now what that would mean is, in the future, let's say we're working through the wizard, and we get to this point where we're looking at the mappings and we're thinking, oh, I've got to map it again. And some of the files, they can be quite lengthy, the mappings that you need to do. There's quite a lot of information maybe that you want to import. So rather than me manually map, what I can do is say, well, I want to load the map, and it's that file there. That's the one that contains the map, the matching, as it were, for that map field mapping. So with that one, open, it fills it in for me. I click next, and we can continue through that process. Tells me it's imported them. Click close, go and have a quick look. Scroll down, we've got those on the end there. So ZA001 all the way through to ZA005. Now, so far what we've covered is adding new records, and we did mention that you can use the import process to update things like, well, update anything in the record, not the account reference, but you could update the things like credit limits, which is what I'm going to demonstrate there. If we open this file, and you'll see what we've got is we've got some information in here. Now, what I've done here is I've exported my customer list. I just used the send to Excel. Actually, let's quickly do that. I'll go back to Sage. I've got my customers. So some of them do and some don't have credit limits. So what I'll do is I'm going to click send to Excel. So it'll transfer whatever the information is, it'll transfer it across to Excel for me. So there it is. And let's say credit limits wise, I'll just do 1, 2, 3, I'll do £1,237.59, just as an example. I'll copy that down. In fact, I'll copy it all the way at the bottom. And what I'll do is I'll change that very last one. Let's just say £4,000 on that one. We'll save the file. I'll just save it to my desktop. Let's call it credit limits. Save it. And remember, you need to have that file closed. So back to Sage. And I'm going to import that. So you can see most of the credit limits are 0 at the moment, or 3,000. Into File, Import, back up, choose Customer Records, and then browse for the file that you're after. So mine's on the desktop this time. At least I think it is. Can't see it for locking. Oh, I'm sure I saved it to the desktop there. Let's just use documents. Did I put it in here instead? Let's just quickly do that one again. Right, start that one again. So into customers, I'm going to, again, I'll send it to Excel. I'll do a different value this time, just to keep it nice and easy. Copy that down. Again, I'll change the last one. We'll do 3,000 this time. I'll go File, Save As, make sure I save it to the correct place this time. So we'll do it to the desktop. We'll call it credit limits. And save it. Apologies for that one. Close the file. All right, back to Sage. So back in Sage, I want to import those credit limits. So File, Import, take you back up, then click Next. Customer Records, browse for your file. So it should be on my desktop this time. There it is. It does contain headings. Right, now what I'm going to do this time, the only ones I want to map this time is I must map the account reference. And the only other thing I want to map is the credit limit. So we'll just scroll down and find that one. There it is. And I just need to find that on which column holds that, so the credit limit column in this case. So just those two. The rest, I'm not bothered about importing any of the other information. I can pick and choose. So even in your file, if you've got loads of information in there, you don't need to strip it out. You just don't map it. You don't include it in the field mappings. Now, when I import, the way that it knows sort of to add a new record or update an existing record, it just looks at that account reference. If the account reference that I'm importing doesn't exist, it'll create a new record for me. If it does exist, it'll update the existing record. So all I'm going to do, account reference, and then lower down, we've got the credit limit mapped. Click import. It runs through that file for me, tells it's imported again. And when we go back to customers, you'll see that they all have their credit limits changed to whatever was included in the import file, all except that other one, which has picked up that £3,000 that was also included in the import file. I hope that makes sense. Now, the final one I want to show you in today's session is the issue with maybe having a blank line. So if you're in this position, and it's quite common, sometimes find it when people import transactions as well. Sometimes people will break up their import file. So they'll have a section now with transactions. It might be a list of bank payments, then you go on to a list of bank receipts, and people try to organize it by having blanks in there. Now, when you go through an import, as soon as when it reads that information, as soon as it hits a blank line, it assumes that's the end of the file. So it won't read any information after that. So that's something to be aware of. If you're going to do that, it's not going to give you an error, but it would just stop. It would say, right, well, in this case, it's going to import these 6 records here, and then it wouldn't import anything after that blank line. It just assumes that's the end of the file. So something to be aware of. The other one, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you have an error. Let's just open this one. And what I'll do is I'm going to put, I've got these ones. Now, what I've got is, remember when we looked at the template earlier, it said the maximum number of characters that you can have for an account reference is 8. So this one's got 9. So what does it look like when you've got an error? Because chances are you're going to come across something like this. You've put something that's invalid. For something like a credit limit, you might have typed some text in rather than have a value in there. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Close the file, back to Sage. And if we go to File and then Import, we'll ignore the backup again. Customer records, you're working through the wizard. So in my import template, it was this one. Actually called suppliers, so I'll just import them as customers. That's absolutely fine. It does contain headings. Pop in the mappings. I'll just leave it as that. And I'm going to click import. It'll do pass 1 and it'll stop after pass 1 this time. And this time it's telling me there's an error in record number 4. The account reference, it says illegal sales ledger account reference. Basically, it doesn't meet the requirements. It's not within the rules of what's allowed in that particular field. Sometimes get it probably a little bit more common when you're trying to import transactions, but obviously get it for importing records as well. Now, the thing to be aware of when it says error in record 4, if I just edit the import file, so record 4 is not on line 4. It's because I've got headings. So in this case, record 4 is on row number 5. And it's the account reference. Just be a case of me correcting that. So if I just I'll take the numbers off the end so we know it's now within the 8-character limit. I'll save the changes, close out. We'll try the import again. That file. The mapping is still held from when we did it earlier. Click Next, click Import. This time it should run through, assuming there's no other problems, and that's them then imported. So it's got that new town. So we just click Close, and they should be in my customers list. So there it is there. So we've covered most of the potentially the issues that you're likely to come across. So let's quickly pop back to the slides and we'll start wrapping up a little bit. So when things don't go to plan, which inevitably you're probably going to come across one at some point, there is information in our help center for that, a list of import errors, just in case if you're not sure, have a look at that help center, find your error. It'll explain what it is and what you need to do about that. The common issues, as I mentioned, the import file still being open. It must be shut before you try to import it. Illegal sales or purchase ledger record, the account reference, it's very common, that one. And also that blank line. Although it's not going to give you an error when you try to import, it will assume that's the end of your file. So again, watch out for that one. Now, if you've got any final questions for me today, if you want to quickly pop them in there, remember there is an opportunity to download the handout, and also that the session is being recorded and you will receive a link to the recording on the follow-up email in round about an hour's time. But if you do have any questions, anything you're not certain of, particularly if you've tried to import before, and maybe there's something that generally catches you out, pop it in there, let me know. Help Center is a great source of information for you. You can access that at any time, whether you're in your software or not. If you're in your software, you can just press F1 and it'll bring up the help relating to whatever it is you're looking at or working on. If you're not in your software, just open your browser, head along to sage.co.uk/help. Loads of great information in there. One webinar we are running at the moment. We're not running it next week, we are running it tomorrow. We're then taking a week off just while we update that. And then we'll be running it again on a weekly basis from the week after. And it's to do with Copilot. Copilot might be something you've come across. If not, get yourself registered for one of those sessions. Copilot is starting to be developed more and more now. So it's only released in version 31.1, so a very new feature, this one. We've got about 20, I think I heard yesterday, we had about 25,000 of our customers already using Copilot. It surfaces key information to help you understand your company and help you make better decisions, whether that's on managing debt, managing your stock, helping to monitor the performance of your business, trying to spot mistakes, that type of thing. If you want to find out more about it and see it in action, get yourself registered for one of those sessions. And that brings me to the end of the session. Apologies for the slight overrun. Obviously, lots to get through in this session. Just bear me one moment. Just skip past the end slide there. So there will be a little survey pop up as you leave today. If you can take that moment just to complete the survey, be greatly appreciated. Give us a score, rate the webinar, share any thoughts, ideas about how we can improve, topics you'd like to see covered going forwards. Pop it all on there. We love reading those comments. The follow-up email containing the recording and the links so you can register for future webinars and watch recordings, that will be with you in round about an hour's time. Quick question from Matthew there. What time is the webinar tomorrow? The one for importing transactions. Let me just double check that for you. Just share my screen as well so you can see this. So if I just go to sage.co.uk/webinars, it will take you to this page. This is the link that's included on your follow-up email. So if I just check the live timetable for Sage 50 accounts, scroll down. So this is the VAT proficiency badge. These are the sessions we're running in June and July. Get yourself registered for those if you are interested, earn your digital badge. But the importing transactions, that's that one. It's tomorrow at 11. Again, that will be around about 45 minutes. Can feel a little bit repetitive, but again, we're looking at the transaction side this time. So if you are interested, get onto the page, register, pop your details in, and again, it'll fire the email straight back to you with the invite. Right, we've got no other, that was the only question we had, so we'll wrap the webinar up just at that point. Once again, many thanks for coming along. I hope you have enjoyed it. Do take that minute to complete the survey as you leave, and hopefully I'll see you on some other webinars very soon. Many thanks.